people said Rodrigo Santilan had everything a man could want. But the night of his engagement party proved how fragile everything really was. One cry from a child was enough to split his perfect world clean in two, right there, beneath crystal chandeliers and golden light, in front of 50 people who believed wealth could protect a soul from breaking. The ballroom glowed with elegance. Music floated softly through the air. Glasses clinked. Laughter echoed. Patricia stood beside Rodrigo, radiant and confident, already moving through the room as if it belonged to her. This was supposed to be a celebration of control, status, and a future carefully planned. And for a few minutes, Rodrigo almost believed the illusion himself. Then Mateo whimpered. At first, it sounded small, almost lost beneath the violins. But it grew sharper, louder, desperate. The sound cut through the room with the urgency of pain that had been waiting too long to be heard. Guests turned. Conversations stopped. Rodrigo moved instinctively, lifting his 2-year-old son into his arms, trying to calm him, confused and frightened by the intensity of a cry he hadn't heard in nearly a year. Mateo had stopped speaking 11 months ago, the night his mother died. Rodrigo whispered reassurances, rocked him gently, searched his face for understanding. But the child wasn't looking at him. Mateo's tear-filled eyes were fixed across the ballroom, locked on a single figure standing near the service doors. A woman in a simple housekeeping uniform, hands gripping a trash bin, trying to be invisible. Adele Carter. Before Rodrigo could react, Mateo wriggled free. Small shoes slapped against marble as he ran, stumbling, arms outstretched, straight toward the woman no one had noticed all night. He collided with her legs and clung to her with desperate force, burying his face against her uniform as if his life depended on it. Then came the word, "Mama." The room froze. Gasps rippled through the crowd. Patricia's smile shattered. Rodrigo stood rooted in disbelief. His son had not spoken in 11 months. His mother was gone. And yet, here he was, holding a stranger like home had finally been found. Adele stood trembling, hands hovering awkwardly, fear etched into every line of her body. She didn't embrace the child, didn't push him away. She looked like someone afraid to breathe, terrified that any movement would cost her something precious. Patricia moved first, her heels sharp against the floor, her voice cutting through the stunned silence. Accusations spilled easily, wrapped in disdain. Manipulation, a setup. A woman like that couldn't be trusted. But Rodrigo saw what she didn't. The terror in Adele's eyes wasn't guilt. It was survival. The kind of fear that came from years of learning that being seen was dangerous. Rodrigo knelt. Mateo looked up at him, cheeks wet, lips trembling. The boy managed a single broken word, barely louder than a breath. Safe. That word changed everything. Rodrigo felt it deep in his chest, heavier than logic, stronger than reason. Children didn't fake that kind of truth. Mateo hadn't felt safe since the night they lost his mother. And somehow, impossibly, this woman had unlocked something grief had buried. Patricia pressed harder, demanding action, demanding authority. Security was called. Fingers pointed. Adele shrank inward, shoulders folding, like she had learned to disappear before the world could crush her. Rodrigo stepped forward, voice calm but immovable. He stopped the guards. He stood beside Adele, not above her. He asked not whether she was dangerous, but whether she was safe. The question broke her. Adele admitted she wasn't safe. Not anywhere. Not ever. And in that confession, Rodrigo understood he was standing in front of someone, carrying a past heavy enough to bend a spine. Away from the ballroom, in a quiet corridor where judgment couldn't reach as easily, the truth began to surface. Adele had been running for 3 years from a man who believed control was love and power was permission. A man with money, influence, and a talent for rewriting truth. When she tried to leave, he made sure no one would believe her. He took her identity piece by piece until escape meant disappearing entirely. She had learned how to clean floors quietly, avoid cameras, stay small. Visibility was dangerous. Kindness was rare. Protection didn't exist. Until now, Rodrigo listened without interrupting, without doubting. For the first time in years, Adele spoke without being silenced. And for the first time since his wife died, Rodrigo felt a purpose sharper than grief. Protecting his son had taught him strength. Protecting someone else taught him courage. When the knock came and the security footage played, the past arrived at the gate in human form. Sebastian, still confident, still certain the world belonged to him. The betrayal cut deep. Patricia had called him. In that moment, Rodrigo saw her clearly, not as a partner, but as someone who valued power over people, control over compassion. Her presence no longer fit the man he was becoming. Rodrigo acted decisively. Law enforcement, lawyers, protection orders. Influence finally used for something that mattered. Sebastian was removed, not with spectacle, but with consequences. Power met accountability for the first time. The engagement ended that night, quietly, without drama. Some guests left confused, others ashamed. But Rodrigo didn't care. He had watched a broken woman find the courage to speak and a broken child find his voice again. In the weeks that followed, Adele stayed. Slowly, carefully, trust took root. Mateo spoke more, laughed, slept without nightmares. Adele stopped flinching at raised voices, stopped scanning exits. Healing wasn't fast, but it was real. Rodrigo learned that wealth meant nothing if it didn't serve humanity. Reputation meant nothing if it silenced pain. And power, when used right, could become protection instead of a weapon. A year later, people said Rodrigo Santilan had changed. They were right. He had less control, fewer illusions, and a heart finally open to truth. His home was quieter, warmer, real, and Adele Carter, the woman no one saw, had become impossible to ignore. Not because she demanded attention, but because her strength shone in the way she survived, in the way she loved, in the way she chose to stay. Sometimes the people who save us are the ones society teaches us to overlook. Sometimes safety doesn't come from walls or money, but from being believed. And sometimes the smallest voice in the room speaks the loudest truth of all. If this story moved you, remember this. Kindness can rewrite destinies. Courage can outgrow fear. And seeing someone fully can change more than one life. And if you believe stories like this matter, don't forget to like, subscribe, and stay with us. Because the next story might remind you that hope still finds a way.